Hi and welcome to my tutorial. I'm going to show you today how to add texture foliage to a tree outline. In the last tutorial we created 4 different outlines. We had a lime tree or Daria, an oak or quercus, a maple or acer, and a birch or betula. Let's see how we can add the foliage texture to these 4 different trees. I did it already once and now let's do it together. I'm going to use a fine liner by Micron Sakura number 2 and it's a 30mm nib. Let's warm up first. Take some scrap paper and looking at the outline of the tree, try to repeat the same doodle. And this is actually the method we're gonna use. We are going to repeat the same doodle over and over again to create the texture. I start to build up some clusters of doodle on the right side, the shadow side, and I add them randomly, going here and there, very lightly. I hope you can see that I try to make them random, and it's really important. For that you can change the size of the doodle, and I often make quick, short strokes. Now let's do the same thing with the oak. I think this doodle is a little bit more loose, but it's the same thing. Establish the doodle, randomly add it, and make sure that one side is more dense so that you can create the impression of light and dimension. Remember that you can overlap the doodle from time to time, and you can also add some small dots or a few small bubbles here and there for more variation. As you can see, when we add the texture, every doodle is slightly different and it shows much better the character of the tree. There is another thing that you have to pay attention to. Don't add too much of texture. Sometimes you can get carried away and you keep adding more and more doodles, and finally it looks like there is too much texture. From time to time you can stop for a second, take a good look and maybe decide that, well, enough is enough, and remember the saying less is more. Well, it's one of my favorite things, not mentioning that making less will save you more time. On the other hand, you have 4 different options, actually 16 trees to play around and try different options. You can add a little bit of extra line weight and see what it does, and you can place a little bit more dots or a little bit less dots, and so on. By the way, I almost forgot. Let's write down the names of the trees. And this is a very good way to learn scientific names of trees. So here I write acer and betula. The whipping shape of betula is slightly different, so to show it, we're gonna place the doodle vertically. But the principle is absolutely the same. Repeat the doodle again and again, and you can also experiment a little if you want to. Let's have a little bit closer look. I try to draw really lightly, but I also notice that there is some variation in the line depending on how much pressure I put on a nib. I believe that a little bit variation in the line makes it more authentic, more interesting, has a little bit more character. And I have one idea for an extra touch. Place a few little marks on a trunk to show that it's really betula and not some other tree with a whipping shape. So that's it for today. This is our whole practice. And if you would like to practice a little bit more on your own, you can try practice cards with 4 other trees. Thank you for joining me today, and I see you next time. Happy practicing!